Hello and welcome back to Eventual Digressions. This is going to be another UFC special, and I'm going to cover the fight between Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. Right. So we had a pretty decent card headed by Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. And honestly speaking, I just had time to catch the main fight entirely, and I'm not complaining. The fight's great, so I just want to go through some of the rounds and how I felt about the fight, how I felt about Ian Garry, and we all know about Carlos Prates. So going by you know this fight, actually some fights that you see in UFC, you do not learn much. Even if there's a win or a loss of a favorite opponent or a favorite UFC guy, or even if it's a surprising result, sometimes you don't learn much, right? Especially if the rounds finish really fast, or if it's a quick knockout, you really don't know whether in another scenario, if there wasn't that mistake, what would have happened. But this fight, I felt, was really informative. I learned a lot about both the fighters, and to be honest, I would say fights like these are also master classes in the UFC, in the mixed martial arts. Not every time you need a knockout, or you need something spectacular to happen, or you need a spectacular submission. This is one of those entertaining 5 round decision fights, which are rare, but we're seeing more and more of them as we are getting more and more technical fighters who are using their fight IQ and navigating the cage much more intelligently than we have seen before, on a regular basis, I would say. Obviously we had amazingly um, historic intelligent fighters like GSP, um, and others who had tremendous fight IQ, right? Israel Adesanya, for example. But this fight also, I think it's one of these. I mean, I can't call Ian Machado Garry as an up and comer. He's as of now, he's a veteran. I think he had a pretty impressive record of an unbeaten streak before he lost to Shafkat in the last fight that he had before this. I do have to caveat it that he went 5 rounds with Shafkat, which was quite impressive on its own, because Ian Garry has his doubters. Some people used to call him that he's a runner. He does not take his opponent's face on. I'm like, why? Why do we need to do that? Like, we don't want another Michael Chandler. No offense to Michael Chandler. Okay, we don't want another Michael Chandler in our UFC, because you have to fight intelligently, and I really admire fighters who really gets hit less and hits more. you know so Floyd Mayweather was a master of that in boxing. Say what you want, but he really got hit really less, and his brain is intact. I mean, biologically speaking. So in that sense, I think the fighters who can defend well, have got good movements, really intrigue me, and will always will. So Ian Garry is one of those fighters. He's slippery. He really commands the cage. He's got pretty good footwork. He's one of those people who's, in my book, is not best at one thing, but it's pretty decent. It's pretty good at most things that you need. A very well-rounded fighter. I mean, in terms of tennis, you can say like Djokovic, right? His return is not better than Andre Agassi or Federer. His serving is not better than Andy Roddick. His net shots are not better than Nadal, right? But overall, he's so good in all the aspects that he's really done well. And I feel the same way about Ian Garry. The only thing that he's lacking, and I don't think you can blame him, is that he doesn't have crazy knockout power. He doesn't have that, and so he doesn't finish fights like that too much. But I would also say his grappling is his strength, but I don't think he's the best grappler. He's one of those guys who mixes it up really well. Very high fight IQ, in my opinion. Very high fight IQ. And let's get into this fight. So, yeah, Gary beat Carlos Prates in a 5 round decision, a unanimous decision. And okay, the fight got really spicy in the last round, but going from the beginning, so before I get into the fight, I think I'm sorry. I should also talk a little bit about Prates. So Carlos Prates, his nickname is the Nightmare. Brazilian. I mean, I think he has almost 100 fights under his belt. He's been a kickboxer. He's been a Muay Thai fighter, and then Contender Series he did really well. And then in UFC, since the time he's entered, he's just lit it up. He's just lighted it up. He his left hand is something spectacular. He really combines his knees and his left hook in tandem to keep the fighters guessing, uses his right hand as a counter, and knocks people out, knocks the lights out from most of his opponents. I think he has 11 first round wins, and first round knockouts in his career in mixed martial arts. And in UFC, I think he's finished all the fights before today. So we haven't really seen him beyond the second round, but it doesn't matter. He has 100 fights, so I never doubted his stamina. He's really old. He's 31. One thing I would have to say that with Prates, he is one of those fighters who is pretty big for the welterweight, so weight class, because he generally punches down. And um, that's what he sets it up. He sets up the fighter with his opponents with the knees that keeps coming, and then bam comes the left hook and lights out. So that's he does that a lot. He kind of fights down. Muay Thai fighters in general are fighters who likes to control. They are always approaching the opponent, they're always attacking, they're always on the offense, they're always trying to cut down angles and get the opponent in the hit zone, where in Prater's case is left hook. So he's very comfortable when he's walking down to his opponent, and there's always pressure. So that's how Muay Thai fighters fight anyway, and Prates is a master of that. On top of that, I think he's also a black belt jiu-jitsu, although he never shows in any kind of grappling or ground game. He's pretty good at defending takedowns for sure. But yeah, so I just wanted to add that. And my guess, Ian Garry is, as I said, is more of a well-rounded fighter. He's very adaptable. He keeps moving, like kind of slipping and hitting. He really likes maintaining his range. So I was very curious that how will this fight pan out, and my prediction was very difficult. I did not know who had it. To be honest, I was leaning towards Prates, because I thought, if Garry gets caught once or twice with the left hand, it's lights out. So that's what I was thinking. And the way Ian Garry approached this fight is so smart. It was so impressive, because what he did was, he used his kicks a lot. Before even Prates could get comfortable or get a read, he was continuously using his high kicks. And the thing about Garry is that he does not stop if a particular shot is continuously getting blocked or anything. The reason he was using the high kick so much, because that was keeping Prates' left hand occupied. He cannot really open up on the left side and take a swing on his hook, because he's continuously worried about the head kick, and one or two kind of brushed his head as well, right? So that was one thing that he was continuously doing. He was mixing it up really well. He even did a couple of low spinning kicks, which is kind of Tekken or game material. He was also maintaining a lot of his range. Initially, I thought that Garry will keep Prates close, so that to avoid the room for the punch, the left and all. But I think Garry preferred more distance. He was slipping punches, anything. Prates couldn't get set in the entire fight. He just couldn't get set and put in the numbers. And on top of that, whenever Prates was trying to do something, he put in a few calf kicks here and there. I think he should have done more with the calf kicks, because that at least would have slowed down Gary more, because he was having to move so much, which is part of his strategy. But what Prates was getting restricted by from Gary is that he also attempted 19 takedowns, you know. And Gary is someone who doesn't waste much energy. If it works, it's fine. If the takedown doesn't work, he doesn't waste energy. He just gets up and gets off Prates, who was defending the takedowns really well. So on one hand, Gary's high kicks was head kicks were keeping Prates' left hand occupied. On the other hand, Prates was kind of hesitant in terms of getting his kicks in because of the takedown attempts. So that was a brilliant strategy, and because of this confusion, Gary kind of controlled, I would say, 4.5 rounds of the fight. I would say maybe just 4 rounds, and got really good hits. In one of them, I think he was putting in some combination, and also he sometimes, when he was getting a couple of hits in, Gary, he was making Prates walk back, which, as I said, with for Muay Thai fighters, is a very uncomfortable situation when they walk back. They're not really great fighters or throwing shots when they're walking back. So yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of takedowns. I think 4 out of 19 takedowns Gary had. He also really timed, and did some ground and pound as well on Prates. Opened up, but yeah, that's the strangest thing with Gary. I feel that, sometimes I really felt he timed his shots and he hit Prates well. I don't know if it's Prates' chin, but my bet will be, despite Prates' chin, I think Gary doesn't have that knockout power, which is kind of unfortunate because he has got everything: fight IQ, all around, ability to as a mixed martial artist. So what happened? I think Prates was obviously really tired, but he is, in the best sense, an animal. Like, he was ready to go in the 5th round, and he really caught Gary, right? I think in the 4th round, he kind of caught Gary on the nose, which kind of opened it up a little bit. Blood was bothering him. And then on the 5th round, Prates really got into it and kind of had Gary. I think Gary was fatiguing as well. On the ropes, he was literally, trying to hold on to something to not get knocked out. The only thing I would say is that it was really impressive the way Gary rolled and kind of dealt with adversity. That's pretty important to know. Even if you're a very intelligent fighter and you're slipping and going here and there, when you get caught, how do you deal with it in the moment? And also the fact that Prates was extremely, extremely tired also helped, because I think he couldn't go more than that. But it was almost lights out for Gary. Despite having such an impressive four rounds, he was almost done. And I think this is not a shade or throwing any shade on Gary, right? I think Prates is one of the best welterweights right now, period. And he was controlled by Ian Garry for almost 4 rounds and kind of played around with. So this is a very, very impressive win. Make no mistake, this is a very impressive win. And welterweight is, getting stacked up as well. So many people are changing their weight classes and everything to welterweight. So this is going to be a huge, very interesting weight class to watch out for. And I just wanted to, really cover this fight to this extent. Very interesting fight, very impressive from Ian Garry. Prates is not done. I think it was just not his time. Maybe he's understanding the level of opponents that he can get as he goes up, right? Because Gary was really tough for Prates in terms of strategizing, right? In terms of adapting. Like, if you don't get the knockout, how do you adapt? How do you change up? How do you get more well-rounded as a fighter? Prates is very good, but I think this was not his time. And he'll come back. And still, he almost got Gary in the last round. So, yeah, I think I'll finish the video in this note. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and really smash that like button. It really helps if you share the videos and you know spread the love. Also, don't forget to comment if you have any thoughts on this. Okay, see you next time.